Hey, what's going on, guys? Back with another video. This time I wanted to recommend a few books that I think would be interesting around this time. Now, of course, these are spoiler free, so I just touched on a little bit. I didn't want to go too crazy. Just wanted people to go in without knowing what's going to happen and just take it for a good ride. The first book I'd like to recommend is An Ocean of Minutes by Thea Lim. I took interest in this book because it takes place during a pandemic, much like ours. This time the pandemic is happening in '81. So the government decides to build a time machine so that they can rebuild the future. I guess they gave up on whatever was going on in the year. They develop a way to travel 12 years into the future, and they figure what they'll do is they'll just take people from 1981, bring them 12 years into the future to rebuild the country. So there's two people, a couple, Polly and Frank. Frank is sick, and Polly decides that she would time travel because part of the bargain is if you agree to travel through this government, they'll pay for your family or whoever happens to be sick. So in this case, Polly takes that offer to travel, and they agreed to meet at some point 12 years later at a specific destination, except once they are set to meet, things aren't exactly as she imagined they'd be when she comes back. I did like the concept of the story, and some of the things that happen in it could have been better, but again, it's still intriguing, the fact that it's a pandemic, a couple gets sick, and time travel is developed, and one person tries to go into the future to try to figure out if they can save their loved one. I thought it was a great story. The second book I'd like to recommend is Kindred by Octavia Butler. It's a really good time travel book. This one's a story about Dana, another couple. Dana, she time travels, except she has no control over when she travels, how she travels. It can happen at any time. So this book kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat. She travels back to antebellum era, so that alone, she's a young black female. I mean, you're just intrigued, you're in fear for her life, and so is she. So this book is kind of like it's a quick ride, but it takes you on a long ride. Her fight for survival will keep you on the edge, because not only is she trying to survive in that era, but she also has to survive in a way that doesn't create a paradox where she doesn't exist. So she's also conscious of that whatever she does, she has to really needle that thread so that she doesn't do anything to, I guess, cancel herself, as some might say it now. Last but not least, can't talk about time travel without recommending The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. I threw The Time Machine in as a bonus since it's a classic, just in case anyone hasn't read it. And if you're going to read other time travel books, I'd say read this real quick first. The time traveler, as he's called in the book, he gathers a bunch of friends around for dinner, and he tells them about a time machine. Of course, no one believes him, but he actually does end up going into the future. He goes way farther into the future, where we're no longer, the race is not as you know it. I like this one because he, instead of going back, he's traveling into the future. The time travel travels thousands of years into the future. A lot of movies and other books that follow it pretty much follow that theory from H.G. Wells, a lot of things in there. It does make you think about our own civilization and what advances we'd make, and how far we'd advance, or would we advance at all? That remains a question in the book, which is interesting. But yeah, I definitely recommend all these three books if you love time travel, as I do. I do like that in one book, a person develops a time travel machine, in another, the government develops it, and in the third, the person has no control over how she travels. All of it is interesting, and it makes you think about different aspects of time travel. I happen to be in the camp where I think time travel may have to do with traveling back to not necessarily in your own time, but in a parallel universe prior to certain things happening in our own timeline. It's one concept. But there's tons of theories on time travel that people lean towards. I would love to hear what yours are. If you stayed this long to the video, I appreciate it. Stay safe, stay healthy, read a lot, exercise, and I hope everyone's doing well. All right, see you guys. Until next time.